what they expect from the schools is that our children are becoming naturally curious. They want the children to be participative in all spheres of they being in the school. They want the child to do anything and everything.
Hi, I'm Crystal Luce, Professor of Education.
And I'm Amy Ketchum, Pediatric Occupational Therapist.
Welcome to Plant the Seed of Learning, the podcast where we merge education and medical models to bring you science-based practical insights on all things early childhood.
Whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or policymaker, we're here to help you support children from the start.
Today we have a fact or fiction.
All right.
Fact or fiction? Are you ready? Fact or
Ready,
fiction?
I'm ready.
Okay. High quality early childhood education looks the same all over the world.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's such a good one. I'm going to say that is fiction.
That's right. Although the science of child development is universal, how early childhood education is implemented is shaped by culture, community, family structures, and values. So, for example, Germany is very nature-based and independence-focused, while Japan focuses on social harmony and self-control.
Oh, yes. And I know that Italy has a lot of emphasis on the arts, and they follow the Reggio Emilia approach that it follows child's interests. It's so interesting how children develop the same way biologically, but the way we support that development really reflects what our culture values most, right? So, actually, this is a great segue to our guest today, and we have so much to cover, so we want to get started. So, we are so excited to introduce Parul Sindhwani. And Parul serves as the principal for early years at the Nehru World School, where she leads a passionate team of 24 educators in planning, delivering, and transitioning curriculum. With over 16 years of experience as the early years practitioner, she holds a bachelor's degree in education and a master's in English. Parul's responsibilities include overseeing the co-planning and effective implementation of the early years curriculum, ensuring it aligns with best practices and the school's objectives. She's accredited as a program leader for Cambridge Professional Development and has served as a co-trainer for the Asia-wide IEYC Level 2 training held at her facility in India. She presented a case study of the school's Voice of Children Learning at the Bright Start Conference in London, and on the theme of Stronger Together, shedding light on community learning and the importance of intergenerational experiences in the early years setting. She's been invited to speak at the International Curriculum Conference in Bali, Indonesia. Her presentation, The Community Canvas, gave insights into community learning and intergenerational engagement at Healthy Planet schools. She remains dedicated to advancing high-quality early years education through curriculum development, teacher training, and ongoing engagement in international educational programs. And we are so honored to have her with us here today. Welcome, Parul.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Crystal. That was it was a wholesome introduction, but thank you for having me over. I'm very excited myself.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, anyone listening today is in for a real treat because we are going to learn so much about India, and Parul is going to share so much with us about how her role as a principal impacts the school setting. So let's start right off. Can you tell us about your role as a principal at your school?
Okay, so I had actually joined school 10 years ago in the role of the early years head. Again, a similar number of team members, a little short of 24. And I've been looking after planning, implementing, delivering the curriculum, handling parent queries, and progressing and making sure that each child has his or her own space and pace to learn, and every child has an identity. So I think that is something common, and that really remains a fact. It's not fiction. I think all across the globe, everybody's trying to do that. Earlier on, my son was the one who joined the same school. So I began the journey with the school as a parent, really. And very recently, which was last year, the nomenclature of my designation changed, where I was reappointed as the principal for the early years setting. So, like I mentioned, we are a group of 25 team members, including myself, very passionate, absolutely dedicated to ensure that, every child is ready for the future. We are clearly preparing our children to face the world and not the other way around.
Oh,
Oh,
I love
gosh,
the way you phrase that.
I
That's
do too. And I really like how you stated you provide children a space and place to learn.
mhm,
That, and just at the right pace, at the right time is so
mhm,
meaningful.
mhm. Meeting them
Yes.
where they are with the need,
Yes.
with their needs. Yeah.
Mhm.
So wow, you have a large faculty there. How many children do you serve there, and what are their ages?
So while we are a full school from kindergarten until grade 12, we are
Mm,
really divided in three separate zones, but working in tandem with one another.
okay.
So there is an early year setting, then there is a primary and junior school, and then there is a senior school on the same campus. For the earlier setting, like I mentioned, I have 24 team members working with me. There are 303 students,
Wow.
ranging from ages 2 until 5.
2 to 5.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And the children progress from, say, the kindergarten, they would go to grade 1, and that transition clearly happens with us, where we take them to their grade 1 classrooms when the test session starts. We spend some time with them there. We kind of settle them, because remember, I said every child is different and wants to have a starting point as a different one. Not everybody can start at the same point, but
Mm.
clearly being there in their journey is our whole sole purpose, and that's why we are there. Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's not so much age-based, it's where they are at that point in time and they
uh,
progress.
well, most definitely it is age based, but we
Okay.
are in no race to finish or chase a particular curriculum. It would have been wonderful, you mentioned Reggio Emilia, and it would have been like brilliant had we had the opportunity to do something what Italy is able to do. Like, every child has a different curriculum to work with. Clearly
Hmm.
not possible with the number of children we have in our setting, but totally working towards a common goal, where we understand what the child wishes to do, maybe design a need-based curriculum for some set of children together, if not individually separate.
That's excellent. What do you find to be your biggest challenges?
So number is a big challenge. While we are, say, about 26 or 25 average students in a classroom, there are two facilitators. So the number of students with ours is a big school in terms of number. Infrastructure wise, we are growing. We are coming up with a new building. But at the moment, facility, we have smaller spaces and more children in number. So that is one challenge. But nonetheless, we found our ways to overcome those. Uh, Also, I think we are a primarily Hindi speaking nation, especially our city. So it is when we wish to use English as the base for everything. Sometimes the more Hindi speaking families, children coming from them, find it a little bit challenging to settle first. Yes. And then we have to paraphrase everything in our native language.
Wow.
That's
So
amazing.
so the children are all learning 2 languages in school.
Yes. So we kind of take it for given that Hindi is something they already know. That's their mother
Mhm,
tongue, so they're
mhm,
born with it. But so
mhm,
our focus clearly is English, because it is the world language. So English
mm.
is our uh, medium of instruction, except when it's in class. Apart from that, we take it for granted that all children know Hindi.
Mhm. And that's because we know from science and research that children's brains are prime for learning new language when they're under the age of 5. So to take that opportunity between 2 and 5 and teach them English during that time in a structured environment is so smart, because we're missing that window in America. We
And
don't start
Amy,
teaching.
I also feel that while until the age of 5, children can absorb anything and everything we teach them. I
Mhm.
also feel their emotions come out really well when you value their mother tongue. So it's the heart that speaks to you only when you're addressing what they're trying to tell you in Hindi sometimes.
Yes.
So for some of these children.
Yes. I love that too, that you are, make that very concerted effort to teach English, but also respect the mother tongue. I know here in America, I think something that's so interesting is the Native American population is having a real native language sort of revitalization of revisiting that and really intentionally teaching the native language to the children to keep that language alive, because like you said, that is part of the fabric of the culture, and the social emotional learning is really rooted in that. So I love that. That's fabulous.
So the other day we were just discussing when we were sitting as a team in school, and my kindergarten team members told me, one of them told me that this child had so much to share, but because it was a Fountas and Pinnell guided reading class, um, clearly English is the medium of instruction. And then she termed it as, ma'am, it was a missed opportunity for me to interact with the child. So clearly I understand when you mentioned that, Native Americans or the native language really becomes paramount sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
uh, Language is just tricky in early learning. It's very
Yes.
tricky.
Yes.
So, we have a segment that we sometimes do on our podcast called Around the World in Early Childhood. And a few weeks ago, we talked about India. We talked about how it's experiencing a rapid growth in early childhood education. And we're curious now, since we have you here, what shifts or trends are you noticing in what parents expect from preschools today?
Um, so this shift has not been overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it change over a period of time, and parents clearly want their children to be um, self-leading. They want the children to decide for themselves even at that young age. Well, they may put them in a cocoon of love and warmth and care, and not let them step out. But what they expect from the schools is that our children are becoming naturally curious, is
Yes.
something they talk about.
Yes.
And they want the children to be participative in all spheres of they being in the school. So they are no longer containing themselves to the curriculum. They want the child to do anything and everything, so much so sometimes they exceed your expectations for their own children. So they would want the child to be participative in everything, which is music, sports, athletics, drama, not even sometimes realizing that the child doesn't want to do it. The child is only 3, and but they become over ambitious sometimes. But this change, like I mentioned, has not been overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Social media has had to contribute to this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Parents being more aware about what other schools are doing, what other countries are doing. So I think that has contributed a lot to the parent mindset change.
I think we're experiencing something similar in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Based on social media influence, parents are seeing what other children are doing academically, and they feel pushed
Mm-hmm.
to make sure their kids are at the same level as other kids. And the same goes for sports and instruments. We've always started kids early through the Suzuki program, and that's never been a problem speaking to instruments, but sports. A lot of parents are running their children everywhere to be in these sports leagues. And we're finding that children are experiencing a loss of downtime and time for imaginative play, which, as we all know, is so crucial for child development. Interesting.
True, I totally agree. But there has been a shift in the parent body, especially I've seen that shift in the past 4 years more rapidly. COVID contributed to that quite a bit, because when we moved online, and these little ones, the 2-year-olds were also, attending sessions online. And that was the time, only one good thing happened, I'll say, during those 2-3 months in a row, was that
Mhm.
parents got to see how a classroom is being conducted, which they would only know passively. only when the child will go back and, share something. But here they were, where they were right there in front of the screen and understanding what the teacher is doing, how she is doing, or, what's the reason behind it. And they had queries and questions. So I think the only good thing happened that time was that since the parents were watching live everything,
Mm-hmm.
there is where that shift also contributed. I mean, that contributed to the shift in the parents' mindset.
So that was a strength, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So, speaking of strengths, what are the strengths or the biggest strengths in early childhood that you see in the Indian culture, whether it be related to families, community practices, or education traditions?
So, Crystal, I feel that not only in India, but yes, the patterns that I note, intergenerational learning or intergenerational experiences that come from families have a lot to contribute to the early education, especially the age group we are talking about.
Mhm.
Because most of the families still in our setup are joint families. So children live with their grandparents, there are aunts and uncles, and it's a big setup that they live in. So
Mhm.
what happens at school, if it goes into the household and vice versa, then I think the learning gets consolidated. And one of the strengths for our children to learn culture or through culture is because the families are very close knit with the school's um, ethos. So it's not that they do something else and we do something else. We're always around each other, talking to each other. There are so many grandparents who come to school every day to drop or pick their grandchild. And a lot of conversations happen amongst themselves. So children are very happy with unfamiliar adults also sometimes, who were unfamiliar at a point of time, but now suddenly they know that this is extended family.
That is amazing to hear. I know I have four children, and our grandparents were part of their everyday life. And we often talk how we don't know how we would have raised our children without the grandparents being so close by. And I love to see grandparents involved in the lives of
Yeah.
young children because there's something different about a grandparent than a parent. Sometimes
Yeah.
children are more receptive to what a grandparent says.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Another thing that I can call the strength, especially in our school, is the integrated curriculum, because everything is embedded. I'm sure other schools do it, not only in India, all across the globe. So the curriculum, if it's strong and a lot of thought has gone into how it can be connected to everything that the children do in school. So in every aspect of their learning, they're in a way talking about similar things, and there is where the learning is getting consolidated. So I think a strong pedagogical approach or the curriculum content is yet another strength.
Hmm. Can you give me an example of how that would look every day in the classroom setting when they're
Okay,
integrating?
so let's say what we've done is we've kind of divided our whole day for the children in blocks of 20 minutes, because we
Mm.
schedule it for 20 minutes. Sometimes it's only 10 minutes, depending on what is the age of the learner and what is the
Mhm.
mood of the class today. Depends a lot on that. So a circle time conversation could be around how's the weather today, and children are looking outside the window and they say, when I started from home it was sunny, but now I see it's cloudy, maybe it'll rain, and things around that. When the music teacher will come in, they are going to be doing a rhyme around uh, Mr. Sun is shining up, shining bright, something like that, right?
Yes.
Not necessarily will the children all talk the same way, because somebody started from a little distant place and maybe it was sunny there while the other only saw the clouds. So then there is a discussion around it as to how it can be different, and we are okay that it is different, because in my setting it was like that, in yours it wasn't. Coming down to maybe a numeral activity where we are picking out clouds from a basket full of, say, um, other cutout flashcards. So everybody's picking out what is the weather like today. So you touch on the weather. How does the weather make you feel? So another lunchtime conversation is what would you like to eat on a sunny afternoon? And if it's really cold, are you going to be eating an ice cream, or what is it that you will prefer? So the whole day, then it's all about the weather.
Mhm.
And it's not one day, it's many days in a row where weather is being touched upon in some way or the other. And there is where I feel that having and everybody knowing the details of a music class, of a maths class, while we have homeroom teachers where these two mother teachers are taking care of the children the entire day, but also understanding different spaces, that when we will go up we will get to see the clouds during our nature walk, or are we going to see if there are dewdrops on leaves, things that are, things like that. So thanks to the curriculum, it's possible.
Yes. You take one theme and you can do so much with that. You've got science lessons in there, math lessons, socio-emotional learning, talking about how they feel about the weather, storytelling. You've got the music
Yes.
aspect. It's
Yes.
it's
So
so
it's lovely. And
yeah.
also, if I could share that this curriculum kind of gives you, it gives a lot of autonomy to children, where we are not calling them, come students, let's go. We call them, come, hey, weather watchers, let's go forecast the weather for tomorrow. So they fill up sheets. The weather is sunny today. It may be windy today. Let's see. And they will go and check the next day. Is it windy or is it still sunny? So
Predicting, yes.
yeah.
It's a great way to learn content and
Mhm.
a great way for students to be
Yeah.
autonomous in their learning, because each day they're learning more and more about
Yes.
weather.
Absolutely. And a lot of vocabulary enrichment happens.
Mm,
Mhm.
Yeah.
mm.
So what would you say, Parul, would be some of the common developmental challenges or concerns you might see in preschoolers? And I'm curious how your educators typically address any challenges or concerns you might see there.
So developmental challenges clearly come out, or we can share light on them when it comes down to sometimes writing and cognitive thinking, because the eye hand head coordination sometimes takes a little while for some children. While our nursery children, so we have a pre-nursery, we have a nursery, then we have a kindergarten. Moving ahead, we'll have a prep and then grade 1 in the coming session. So our pre-nursery children, it's the structure is such that they do not write anything. They scribble, they do various activities of tearing, pasting, fine motor development.
Mhm.
While some gap sometimes is seen, but I really don't want to call any of this learning over the 5 years any gap, because
Uh-huh.
it's the child's pace that they learn at A.
Uh-huh.
But
Mhm.
nonetheless, we still have to teach them how to read and write eventually. So writing takes a little toll on these 3-year-olds when they start writing once they've been in the system for about, say, 3 months in that particular year. And they start writing, say, by July or end of May. They join us in April.
Mhm.
And there is where the teachers say, oh my God, a little practice is required. So then we take a step back. We see what is it that we can do with these children more. So some of our nursery children join us only in the nursery straight away. They've not done the first foundation year with us. If they have not done the first foundation year, we realize that they've not had enough fine muscle movement activity at home, because parents probably did not find that time to do that much with the child. So we take a step back and we do those kind of activities, take a little assistance from parents, because children come to us only for a designated period of time. The rest of the day they're at home. We kind of suggest some activities to parents as to what we can do. Once the child has started recognizing some sounds of the jolly phonics structure, we kind of want them to gamify everything. So come on, show me something which begins with L, and there's a lollipop, there is a lion picture or something like that. So gamifying things for children, I think, really helps us. That is our one step in bridging this gap, this kind of writing gap. Otherwise, I think for cognitive development, it's just being very patient with the children, because not every child will learn just the way the other one will, I feel.
Okay. And would you say your day sounds like your day is pretty structured? Is there unstructured playtime, recess, downtime for the children, the younger children?
Everything. So what we do is, like I said, we have things in 20-20 minute block timings, and some of this is circle time. Now circle time also is not always structured. Sometimes it's just say whatever you wish to. Sometimes we're just lying down on the floor doing nothing. Sometimes it's cloud gazing. Sometimes it's just going out, trying to look for some birds. So, and you decide what you want to do. So either they'll mix some glue with glitter, which makes absolutely no sense to the teacher, but they are happy, so the teacher is happy. So a lot of unstructured play, but those are opportunities for the teacher to note things about the children because they're in constant conversation. So the learning conversations give you a lot of information about these children. Sometimes we've told the parents that your child loves to eat curd, and the parent did not even know. How come? How did you know? I never sent curd from home. So they said because every time the teacher eats, he wants it, because we don't encourage children getting curd in school. It may go bad and all. But if the
Okay.
teacher is eating, the child wants to eat. So these are, in little things and little anecdotes when we share with the parents, and they did not even know certain things about their children.
I think we learn so much just from watching a child play. So
Yes,
I
absolutely.
really love that you stated that teachers really pick up a lot of things about children socially, emotionally while they're playing. And so that is so important. The other thing you touched on was writing development, and that fine muscle control is so important. And if children are not developing those fine muscles, it becomes really hard for them to write for extended periods of time. So sometimes longer than 2 minutes is too much. But I just wanted to wrap back around. You were talking about 3-year-olds writing. And when you say they're writing, some of them might be scribbling, some of them might be
Absolutely.
making letters. And I just want that to be clear to our listeners that it doesn't mean they're writing full on sentences. It could be a beautiful scribble. And as long as they can tell us what it is, that's amazing because
Absolutely.
that's the cognitive development.
That really is the key. So a little dot, if is a dog, it is a dog. Yeah. If
Yeah.
it is a sun or the earth, it is the earth for us. And it's
Yeah.
celebrated. It's put up on boards and it's
Hmm.
marked, oh, this one's sun is like this and my son.
Hmm.
So it's all like celebratory every day. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
celebrating the learning is so important because that's how we build our children up. It's how we empower them. And without that empowerment, they won't be inspired to learn, which brings me to the next question. So, how do teachers in India approach co-regulation, mindfulness, and the social emotional development in young children?
Okay. So there is no one way to do it. I'll be honest. The teachers get to know their children. They understand their children more than anybody else. So even if I were to go into the class, I can only suggest a few things, or there could be a set policy that we do, that this we must do with the children. Well, we may plan anything. You know how crooked the line curve could go because you've planned it like a graph going there, and there is where the early years planning goes. So clearly, no set pattern, but of course there is a structure. So we have mindfulness yoga for our children. We begin like a story yoga for the really little ones, and we're going to be doing a dolphin pose today, and we are going to be doing like I remember the other day they were doing a tree pose because they were all learning about plants. So now let's become shrubs. They actually did the germination of the seed through yoga with the parents, and they taught their parents, and these are 2-year-olds. This was in November end, and they are teaching their parents how the little seed is like a cocoon, and then you open up and then you stretch your arms, you're becoming a root, you go down, you become firm. So all of those things, yoga is one thing we do. We do a lot of deep breathing. So we don't want the children to chant any mantras or anything, because that's again asking them to memorize. But whatever they like, we at least try and draw their attention to deep breathing. For the 2-year-olds, they really do not know how to do it, but they
Yeah.
try and imitate the teacher. So that is one thing which really comes out very sweet. And also the fact that the teacher tells the children, okay, we've had lunch, we've kind of completed a lot of things. We show them the learning outcomes of the day through pictorial images, and see, we've achieved these. We kind of even tell them that we did this today, remember we did this, kind of recapping everything. And then it's fun for children. A lot of noise making sometimes is very peaceful, because they've kind of shared what they wanted to do, they've spoken their hearts out. The feeling board really helps us do a lot of things. So the littlest ones cannot even scribble or draw and share their feelings through drawing. So what they do is they touch the flashcards, they color the flashcard pertaining to how they are feeling, because they do understand emojis. So
Mm.
those are things we do. It's a
So,
long process still, I feel. Yeah.
mhm.
Excellent. I love the connection to yoga.
Yes, me too. I teach yoga for children, and it is such a great way of learning and using their whole body to express themselves and learn. And it's so funny when I do like a mom and child class, and the mom that's done yoga wants the child expects the child to, stay on the mat and, do the poses. And when it's young children, I love to say the whole room is their yoga mat. They need to move,
Absolutely. Yeah.
they need to explore and move. And gosh, that's wonderful. I want to circle back to one thing you said earlier when you were talking about the handwriting, because I'm curious your thoughts on this, and you as well, Crystal. I heard on the news this morning that they are bringing cursive back, which as an occupational therapist, I am thrilled
Mm.
that this is coming back because I've been advocating for cursive. They stopped teaching it right around the time my children should have learned it. So I taught them cursive and insisted they learned it. There's so many benefits to that fluid movement and the fine motor. I'm curious, do you teach cursive in India?
So at the moment, we do not teach cursive, but
Okay.
if there is a child who, organically wishes to write the cursive way, we will
Okay.
not stop the child. Like, for example, I can't write without writing in cursive. Print
Uh-huh.
is so difficult for me because, when we were learning, cursive was the thing, right?
Yes, same here.
So, like I said, we don't teach cursive at the moment. We used to teach, say, about 15, 16 years ago, but
Hmm.
not anymore. It has its advantages,
Uh-huh.
but still, as a process, we feel that everything that the children will read is in print.
Yes.
So we must
Yes.
teach them print.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's so funny when my daughters get a note in the mail from grandma. They often can't read it because they're not used to cursive. But
Mhm.
I feel like it's a lost art. I'd be thrilled if it came back. So interesting
Yeah.
that it sounds like America, India, and probably other countries sort of made that decision to stop teaching that around the same time, around that same time frame. So interesting. So I'm curious, what is one practice from India in early childhood education that you wish educators around the world could adopt?
Um, One practice that we do that maybe
Yeah.
everybody could adopt.
Yeah.
So, I think every early childhood educator across the world is trying to do anything and everything for the children.
Mhm.
And we are all probably thinking in the same direction. I think the one thing that we do well in our school, and we feel anybody and everybody could do, probably is already doing, is really making sure that each child knows all festivals, because we are in a country where dialect and dialogue changes after every 15 kilometers. So we are
Mm.
a
Mm.
land of multiple languages, and
Ah,
our children, nowadays, with the kind of fast-paced life that their parents have not
mhm.
found the time to celebrate every regional festival, at least all
Okay.
across India. We can't be celebrating everything that happens from North India to South India. We're a big, I mean, it's a variety of things that happens
Mhm.
within our own state. So, but at least the popular, um, I don't know whether that happens in America or other parts of the world, that
Mhm.
we celebrate all festivals for our children. Everything. It's not all the time that they are dressing up and coming or something like that. It could just be watching a video about a particular festival on one day, having a grandparent come to school and share some chants with the rest of the children of that classroom. Uh, I'm sure a lot of other schools are doing the same, but I think
Mhm.
the cultural aspect of it is something we do well.
Oh, that, and that is so important because children need to feel like their culture and their home culture and the certain foods they eat and the rituals and the festivities or the holidays they appreciate are seen by all. And if children from those different areas see that they're celebrating the cultures that are important to their family, they feel included, they feel seen. And I think we try to do that. I don't think we do as great a job in America as we could be doing with that because there are a lot of cultures here and a lot of
Yes.
different ethnicities, and really celebrating all of those things, I think, is so beneficial for children. It gives them
Yes.
that really global worldview of how people, might think differently than them or have come from different backgrounds, but still all be able to come together and work together in a classroom setting. I love that.
I also feel it gives a lot of rise to international mindedness, because children do understand that if I do it here, it is being done somewhere else, but maybe in a different manner.
Yeah.
Because within their own country, they get to see so many diverse activities of the same festival around them. So I think it gives a great rise to international mindedness in children.
Yes. And we need to
Oh,
normalize that too, right? We can't one day in a preschool class celebrate a different culture and everyone dress up and eat the food from this culture and do everything different, and then it be like tomorrow we go back to normal, where it makes
Yeah.
it feel like that one thing was just so different and exotic. And we
Yeah.
really want to normalize that. We want to make these different cultures part of the everyday, so children understand that it doesn't have to be something different. They can integrate it, and just like we integrate different people and different viewpoints into our lives. So that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Parul, I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so important that we recognize the diverse culture everywhere. So it's not
Mhm.
just in America, but globally. There's so much diversity. And I am always amazed when I'm out in the schools, especially in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia, of all the things they're doing to recognize different cultures. And they celebrate them, and they have these amazing cultural evening events where other cultures are being celebrated so that children learn what's happening around the world. But especially interesting is the large Indian population that has immigrated to the suburbs of Philadelphia. So we're learning about your culture, and I'm always amazed
That's
and
great.
so honored to be a part of the conversations taking place pertaining to culture. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And it's so interesting to learn how early childhood looks in different countries, because
Mhm.
now more than ever, our children are growing up in a world where they're going to eventually get jobs where they're competing on the global
Mhm.
workforce. It's really not just about who else is in their small town that has similar
Yeah.
skills. I mean, my daughter lives in Philadelphia and works at a marketing company that is from the UK. And most of her colleagues are international, and you just wonder what their background and their skill sets are, that how their education was different. So it's so interesting to hear. I'm thrilled of all the similarities that we're learning, but also we're learning a lot that I think we could share and integrate.
But I'm sure there are a lot of similarities because,
Yes.
ultimately everybody is thinking on the same lines for these young children.
Mhm.
Yes, I know when I go to conferences, international conferences, that's the best part about it is sharing our similarities, but also
Yeah.
learn from our differences. So I'm
Yeah.
always so thankful for the opportunities to go to international conferences to learn from others.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As we wind down this episode, can you share a piece of advice for our listeners? One last piece of advice that you would like to provide us?
Okay, so you mentioned going to conferences has always been valuable. A very recent event that I attended, this lady from the Delhi University, she teaches in one of the top colleges in Delhi University, and she talked about talk and how there was a book which said that how to talk so that young children would listen, and how to listen so that young children would talk. And I think that is one thing that has stayed with me for the past 2 3 days. It was very recent, and clearly not my advice coming from me, but what I have understood, somebody who herself likes to talk so much, that's me, but taking into account that listening is not only with ears, but listening clearly is with emotions. Because the first question that lady asked me was, how many times have you half listened to a child? How many times have you been on your phone and looked at your phone and the child is wanting to talk? So I think when children are talking, it is our prime responsibility to not half listen, but fully be immersed into what the child is wanting to say. I think so. Nothing new, but something very important, absolutely integral to what I will be doing for the rest of my life.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
A great way to end the segment so that
Yeah.
all of us think more about talk and listening with our hearts, not
Yes.
just our ears.
Yes. Listen with emotion. That is a perfect try this tomorrow. We can all be
Yes.
a little more intentional about listening, putting the phone down, eye contact, and truly fully listening, not half listening. Thank you so much, Parul. This has been so interesting, so enlightening. We are thrilled that you were able to take the time and talk to us today. We learned so much from you. And yeah, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having me over. It has been wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. So thank you, listeners, for joining this week, and we'll see you again next week.